Hi everyone, I'm Kakani Katija, and today I'll be talking about some of our work on automated visual search and tracking of midwater organisms using machine learning integrated robotic vehicles. This is a collaboration with colleagues at MBARI and C-Vision AI, and one that's funded by National Science Foundation, OTIC program, and the Geo Directorate. And machine learning algorithms used in this presentation were trained on FathomNet. The ocean's midwaters, the region of the water column that connects the surface waters with the seafloor, is the largest habitable ecosystem on the planet and is arguably the least explored. With more than 80% of ocean yet to be explored, scientists estimate that anywhere from 30 to 60% of marine life has yet to be described. Not only do we in MBARI's Bioinspiration Lab want to drastically reduce these numbers, we also want to enable researchers to understand animal behavior for applications related to ecology and mechanics. To address this need, the community needs observational platforms to detect, classify, observe, and track individual animals for long durations, hopefully more than 24 hours. And as you can imagine, this is not an easy task. Early work on this project was conducted as part of a collaboration with WHOI, Stanford, and UTRGV to build the Mesobot, where we worked on the tracking algorithms. And while this video shows an underwater vehicle tracking a rigid white object autonomously quite well in MBARI's test tank facility, things change a lot when you go into the field, not to mention when you're dealing with unpredictable objects like animals. For example, when you put these algorithms to the test in the field, visual tracking is more challenging due to a noisy image that's littered with particles and marine snow. Additionally, some animals in midwater can look similar, and while the midwaters are vast, it wasn't too uncommon in our field trials for animals to occasionally run into each other. So in this video I'm about to show you is the actual video that was collected during some of our field trials, and red circles indicate potential targets, and blue dots indicate the target that we're currently tracking. And right now the blue dot is on a salp, which is what we're tracking, and then shortly after we start tracking this animal, a squid bumps into that salp, and you'll see that that blue dot has now been transferred onto the squid, and you'll also notice the choppy movement behavior of the vehicle because now we're tracking it. And then shortly after this occurred, this squid was then joined by a lot of their friends, and somehow we were able to resume tracking on the original animal. And so clearly we need smarter algorithms that can distinguish between objects in the field in real time to assist with challenging situations. Another challenge involves situations where animals' state change significantly over time. Let's take, for example, the giant larvation Bathycordius, which you see here. Bruce Robeson wants to understand the ecological impact and function of mucus houses. The animal is the blue tadpole-looking thing, and the mucus house is the white structure around it. And there's scientific value for conducting long-duration tracking of mucus houses, since we don't have accurate measurements of sinking rates of these carbon-rich sources, and the animals themselves, because we don't really know how often these animals are creating houses and what the implications are for energetics, feeding, and carbon cycling. So how do we distinguish during these tracking missions larvaceans from their mucus houses, even when one is occluded by the other? And so what we posited was that machine learning may provide a mechanism to distinguish between different features in visual data, and when integrated with vehicle controllers, could be used to create more robust tracking capability. We call these algorithms ML tracking. And fortunately for us, this idea was supported by NSF OTIC, and we then got started. Here is the platform. We're using MBARI's mini ROV. Unlike fully autonomous vehicles, remotely operated vehicles allow for human-in-the-loop control and intervention, and tracking is enabled by 2 stereo cameras and 2 lights. Mini ROV can be operated in our test tank facility, which allows for significant vehicle fine-tuning prior to going to sea to demonstrate the algorithms. This is a diagram that shows at a high level how the ML tracking algorithm works, starting from our imaging system on the far left to the vehicle controller on the right. Our left and right stereo camera feeds images into a RetinaNet machine learning model. Much of the data that were used to train a RetinaNet model was from FathomNet, an underwater labeled image training database that we beta launched last September and can be accessed at www.fathomnet.org. If you want to learn more about FathomNet, you can check out my other talk in the IN05 session. We did a survey of some of the most common midwater animals in Monterey Bay, which included jellyfish, ctenophores, worms, and giant larvaceans, by querying MBARI's VARS database. In using these classes on the right, we trained a RetinaNet object detector that was then integrated in the ML tracking algorithm. And if you'd like to download the MBARI Midwater Object Detector, you can find it on FathomNet's Model Zoo on GitHub. The bounding boxes from the object detector is then fed into a 3D stereo tracker module to estimate 3D positions of detected objects. And these data are then later fed into the supervisor module that contains logic for mission planning. The supervisor module then sends thruster commands to the vehicle controller, and both the supervisor details and vehicle details can be visualized in real time by an operator. And after multiple field trials, we identified 5 generalized use cases that we evaluated our ML tracking algorithms against. And they include single object steady swimming cases, single object dynamic swimming, multi-object nested classes, so like the case of the giant larvation and its mucus house, multi-object multi-class occlusions, and finally, multi-object single-class occlusions. And as I step through each of these use cases, I want to orient you to the videos I'm about to show. You can see the left and right stereo camera image, and the vehicle imaging and processor performance is shown up top in gray, and the ML tracking algorithm performance is shown in brown text. The target class is indicated by the orange bounding boxes, and the green bounding box indicates the current tracked class. The class name of the tracked class and model confidence is shown below the bounding boxes. And all of these videos I'm about to show you were collected with the mini ROV between 200 and 500 meters deep in Monterey Bay. For use case 1, single object that is steadily swimming, the target class here is a ctenophore called Varroa, which is a common translucent gelatinous animal. And you can see from the confidence scores that the detector did very well on this class, and also the vehicle tracked this particular target very easily. For use case 2, single object that is dynamically swimming, the target class here is the head of a siphonophore called a Preidae, which is another translucent gelatinous animal. And so the head of these siphonophores are called nectosomes. So that's what you're seeing in the class name. For use case 3, there are instances where you can have multi-object nested classes like that giant larvation Bathycordeus that's found within its mucus house inside of a mucus outer filter. And you can see our target here is the house, and occasionally the animal as well as the outer filter will flicker in and out by the detector. For use case 4, multi-object, multi-class occlusions, they can occur as shown by this Solmissus jellyfish that we're tracking and its brief encounter with a small siphonophore. And finally, for use case 5, multi-object, single-class occlusions. Here you can see 2 Solmissus jellyfish swimming towards each other, and tracking is transferred to the second jellyfish. So that means it fails. Additional work is required to address this limitation found in the ML tracking algorithm, and this is an active area of effort. And we also evaluated our algorithm's performance on the longest known observation of a midwater animal that lasted for more than 5 hours. On the left, you can see a video played back at 10x, or 10 times the speed of the siphonophore we tracked, and you can see how behavior of the animal has changed over time and other animals zooming in and including our view. And during that period of time, we did not lose ML tracking vehicle control, even in instances where other animals occluded the siphonophore target. And the value of these kinds of data can be seen on the right. We know very little about fine-scale siphonophore behavior, and just this one observation shows how the animal changed depth in yellow from nearly 300 meters down to 500 meters, with brief pauses to feed. Observations like these will be very helpful as we try to understand the ecomechanics of these and other animals in the deep sea. And in addition to running ML tracking algorithms on already collected data, we've demonstrated these algorithms in the field using the mini ROV. The video on the right shows you the left stereo camera view as we track a giant larvation Bathycordeus, as it's currently swimming in a different state, right, without its mucus house. And even in instances where we come upon other targets, ML tracking is able to distinguish between the targets and maintain tracking on the target class. So very shortly, you're going to see the Bathycordeus run into a siphonophore, and briefly the detector gets confused but then realizes that the class doesn't match and then goes back on the bathycordeus. And so while earlier versions of our stereo camera tracker would have failed in these circumstances, we can already see how ML tracking performs much better. And while these earlier experiments have been very promising, our NSF-OTIC project goals were to demonstrate that we could conduct tracking missions on midwater animals completely autonomously. In other words, we want to demonstrate the ability to pre-program a vehicle to look for specific animals of interest, find it, and initiate a tracking mission. To do this, we modified the ML Tracking Supervisor module to include different phases of the mission, where during search, in green, the vehicle moves forward, maintaining depth and heading, and evaluate the detections of classes to see whether they match the target class. The vehicle then transitions to acquire, in orange, when the detected class matches the search class, and the vehicle rapidly decelerates or accelerates depending on the relative behavior of the object. If further verification does not confirm that the detected class matches the search class, then the vehicle transitions back to search. However, if the classes match, the vehicle transition into the track mode, red, and until we either lose the animal and resume searching, or we interrupt the mission. So we were able to implement these improvements to the ML tracking algorithm and deployed the mini ROV last March and again in May, demonstrating this. So the footage I'm about to show you is from March, and in the top left, you can see the bright colored text showing the mode that our vehicle is in. Remember that we're running these algorithms on an ROV, so we can view the stereo camera footage in real time and intervene if necessary. The audio is recorded from that particular dive. And as we come up on a giant larvation, which is the animal that we're searching for, the vehicle automatically transitions from search, acquire, to track.
Lasso coming up.
Are we gonna get it? Oh guys, I got it. And while I may not sound that excited, I was, and these field trials and results are currently being written up for manuscript. We were able to demonstrate that these algorithms work on mini ROV first, and now we are transitioning to integrating them and demonstrating them on Mbari's long-range AUV. To learn more about these efforts, check out 3 talks from Bioinspiration Lab members Paul Roberts, Eric Ornstein, and Ivan Masmedia. This work was made possible by the efforts of many people, and we're grateful to NSF-OTIC for supporting this work. We hope that algorithms like ML tracking will one day change how we deploy vehicles to explore the deep sea, discover life and valuable resources in our ocean, and minimize our impact during sampling. Thank you very much.